Hi everybody, Mark Cleghorn here. Welcome to the Photographer Academy, and we're live again in Studio 2, and as promised we're in changing rooms. So what we're doing over 3-4 weeks is making a series of films for the Academy, and obviously doing it live as well for you, to kind of give you an idea on how you can kind of maximize small spaces. Studio 2 is basically around about 5 meters by 5 meters in size, so it's about the size of a double garage. The only real benefit that we've got compared to perhaps you is height. But obviously if you had somewhere as high as this, you'd probably be putting in a mezzanine to have an office above, but let's not talk about that today. What I've done is completely change from last week's boudoir into this week's headshot. So what I've tried to do is maximize the space for a kind of a headshot photographer to give you some ideas. And we've got Molly back with us, so we'll kind of be shooting live to give you an idea of the kind of look and the feel that you can kind of create in the space that you've got. I think we should just talk through the setup first while Molly's getting changed, because we just finished shooting. What I've done is, for the majority of the time of the headshot photography, I'm going to need to make sure I've got a darkish background and I'm going to have a light wall. So I'm using the event background here as a part of the dark set. And then I've basically, behind here, I've got the white wall. As you can see above, we've got colored papers and so on, which we can bring down to create a different kind of look and feel. Then to my left-hand side, we've got a creative background, one that we've created ourselves and actually had printed. And then to my right, we've got some cloth backgrounds on the likes of studio stand poles, as it were, background supports, to actually maximize the space. So let's kind of work through. Now, I should say that most of my headshot photography usually starts in high key, and then actually kind of lowers its key down and so on with it. But we're going to kind of work a little bit in reverse today for you, just to kind of give you a little bit of an idea of flow. So many of you are already good at the high key or the white and light kind of images. What what I want to do is concentrate on something other. Now, remember, this isn't about real portrait today, it's about headshot photography rather than anything else. I suppose the difference between myself and many headshot photographers is that I use a prime lens. It's usually either an 85 for the portrait and a 50 for the actual more editorial style, compared to the likes of a medium zoom lens that many use, or a longer zoom lens as well. Also, I tend to actually opt for one key light instead of a key light on each side, like you may see some headshot photographers use. I'm not a massive fan of flat lighting. I always want some kind of three-dimension shadow in some way. And basically that will give me a kind of a difference, possibly to others as well. We'll show you the kind of the different positions of the lighting today, but we've got loads and loads of films on headshot photography on the Photographer Academy, so feel free to kind of get over there and have a little look. The background lights, or I should say about the main light. So the main light here, we're using a Rotolux Deep Octa, and this has 2 layers diffusion. It's perfect for the kind of the headshot photography, the beauty photography and so on. As a rule of thumb, if you're looking for what size of softbox do I buy for headshot photography, I would say that think about the kind of the torso to the top of the head. So you're looking for something around about 1 meter, just short of 1 meter anyway would be good enough for you. And then if you can get it in 1 meter square or octa or round, then that'll be a kind of a benefit and things. Try and have 2 layers of diffusion, whatever you're buying, because that's going to soften the light down even more. And remember, if you want to get an even softer light, instead of directing the light directly at the subject, turn it to almost wash across them, and you'll basically get a softer light source even more again. Okay, in the background lights, I've got 2 separation lights, but only one is going to be running at a time. It means I'm going to be switching them off as such. Each of them is fitted with a Photic softbox. Basically, we haven't gone for the long, skinny ones that we'd usually be showing you. We just thought we'd give you some versatility. But if I was setting up from scratch, I'd definitely go for the Deep Octa or a round light source about a meter as such. Then I would go for another one, which was a long, slim one, longer than this, but basically about the same width here. So around about 1.5 meters long. And then that will obviously make sure, as long as I've got the egg crates to go on the front, it's absolutely essential. And then, as you can see, we've got one on each side, but in fact what I'm going to do straight away is switch this one off for now, because I really just want to work with a sandwich light style. We'll see it come back on in some of the setups, yeah? Let's switch that off for now. Right, I don't think I've missed anything out. A variety of backgrounds and everything else, blah, blah, blah. Let's get on. Mol, do you want to come on through? Squeeze on through there. He's jamming you out of the way, isn't he? Brilliant. Okay, so Molly, if you just come and have a little sit down for me to begin with. Let's give you a little seat. That's there for me. So I want to try and keep Molly far enough away from the background as possible. So around about 3 feet or more. If you've got to work closer, then don't panic about it, do it. We're using the reflector panels to add some extra kind of pop into the eyes themselves. Let me just move this. And for my main light source, we're going to meter around about f4. Okay, so we want to meter that to begin with. And if the whole of this live session features my bum in all the shots, somebody's going to get a P45 at the end, kind of thing, you know? I'm joking. Okay, so I'm running at 5.6 there, so I just reduced that down by a stop. So that should give me F4 now. Let me just meter my group 3 on the back of Molly's hair from this light. It's 1.4. We need to increase that by two stops. There we go, it's 2.8. So it's 1 stop less than the key. And then that's going to give us a lovely kind of almost glamorous separation kind of from the image itself. Molly, if you slightly turn the body that way for me and turn the head back to me if you could, please. I'm using the likes of a 85mm prime, f4, 100 ISO, and that's giving us that straight out of camera image, all right? We're using tether tools today, which is basically, you know, pretty much not just for our demonstrations, but perfect if you're a headshot photographer, because you definitely want to be editing live with the client at the end of every kind of setup that you're doing, or at the end of the shoot. You want to kind of choose their best of the best there and then. Saves you a whole load of work as well. So there's our simple image. Let's just show you, before we kind of show you the variety of what we could do here. Let's go to group 1. This is just this main light now, yeah? Let's do the same shot. And you're going to see basically a lovely kind of tone. You can see already the kind of the shadowing coming down the left-hand side of the face. If I want to create even more kind of dynamic to it, then I can basically move the light away from camera, which will increase the shadow a little bit more. And obviously, if I drop some of the reflector panels down, let's do the same thing, please, Molly. That's beautiful, darling. If I drop some of the reflector panels down, we'll get even a deeper shadow again, all right? So, whereas kind of you'll probably think and expect to shoot with the light as close to camera position as possible, I tend to actually move, as I said, just around towards the side. So if I just show you those 3 shots for a minute, you can, well, may as well show you the 4th shot as well, don't we? So top left-hand side is the 2 lights together. But really what we're concentrating on is what the key light alone is doing, yes? So why we're looking at the top right and then the bottom left and then the bottom right is we're looking at what the specularity, what the beauty lighting and kind of element is doing to the face and so on. Some clients will need more shadow, definitely because I'm so big I need more shadow, whereas somebody who is slight doesn't need as much shadow and things really. So you want to watch that. We're not sculpting the kind of the chiseling of the face too much, especially if they're very, very thin or very, very gaunt. So it is slightly moving the light around. So for somebody who's bigger like me, take it more to the 4 o'clock and kind of feather that light. For somebody who is kind of real thin as far as the face is concerned, or even the chins or body size, then you can actually bring it closer and closer towards the camera to flatten and fatten the face just that little bit as well. So, but as a rule, we want 2 lights, and what we're showing here, in fact, is that classic sandwich light, yeah? the beautiful fill-in, i.e. Molly, my key light, and obviously the separation light as well with it. So in this case, if I wanted to just give myself just a quick change without anything else, remember we'd run through a whole series of images here, but let's use the kind of the funky background for a minute, yes? So in this case, I'm just going to switch this on. I could have these Ellinchroms, in fact, converted to when I switch the power on at the mains, they basically come on automatically. I haven't had them converted yet, so basically I have to switch them on and off on the back of the actual unit itself. Molly, if you can stand up for a minute, I'm just going to push this stool back a little bit. There we go. Grab a seat, love. So if you come right on the edge of the seat, push your feet round towards there, and almost lean onto the knees. If you open up the legs more, that's lovely. Let's bring my camera around. So 85mm for the kind of portrait image, whereas the 50mm is pretty much used for the more editorial. So when I'm shooting more than just basically the headshot. Light at this stage can just move around. Nothing really has changed. Let's shoot the same shot. We've got the one light first, that's beautiful, it's there. So the difference to begin with is when you turn the subject into the light, could you turn your body around towards there and do the same shot? Lean there and then turn the head back to me, please, Molly. Can I move your seat back over there, is that all right? Don't fall off the seat, love. And turn the head to me more. That's lovely, it's there, let's do it. So the first things first is if we look at the difference in the two, classically with women, we would turn the body away from the light and then basically turn the head back towards the light source. The reason being on that, as Rembrandt showed us, basically needing to add some white paint onto the breast to give it a 3-dimension or created shadow on the shadow side and things really. So if we turn the body in towards the light, it basically flattens the bust. So somebody with no bust basically has no bust, and somebody with a bigger bust will actually be making look it's fuller. What we're trying to do all the time with body is give things shape, of course, yeah? So that's where we'd really want to actually turn the body away from the light a little bit more. Molly, can you just stand up for one sec? I'm just going to move that in. There we go, and do the same post me. Meter in now for this far light, yeah? So we want that sandwich technique again. So in this case, this is my group 4. It's 2.82, so that's perfect, in fact. So let's do the same shot. Let's put group all on for me. That's lovely. Twist the body to me, Molly, just a little bit more, darling. That's beautiful. And just there, lower the chin a touch more. Turn the nose a little bit. That's beautiful. Keep that. Let's have a quick look at that, shall we? So now we can see how we're creating a lovely kind of Hollywoody glamour light with that light kind of coming across and the separation. Still, that first image is easily usable and easily sellable without any trouble at all. Whereas the kind of the separation light, that sandwich light technique, starts to add a little bit more kind of glamour to it. And obviously we could actually add a secondary light in from the kind of the opposite side of the background if we wanted a full glamour light. So in other words, a double separation. Okie doke. So I'm just trying to decide, do you know what, we've done that, so let's move back to where we were, in fact. You know what I forgot to do was, can you move that for me? Oh, you're a super girl, you are. Let's just add in a pop-up. So remember, the whole point of this session is about changing rooms, yeah? About how we can add instant variety. Molly, I'm going to just move you back, if you can, just a touch more. That's lovely, and as she moves back, I move this back. And because the light is on the opposite side now, my light will actually come over to here, yeah? So this is always making sure that my key light is on the opposite side to the separation light as such. That's lovely, it's there, it's beautiful, keep it. It's pretty gorgeous, that is. So that's just a kind of a simple kind of pop-up background. And as you can see, we've got some good 3-dimension. Let's turn the body around towards here a little bit, please, Molly. and just kind of lean the head onto the, that's beautiful, just there. Just bring the hand up as if you're adjusting an earring, that's beautiful. Go, relax. So straight away, the pop-up backgrounds do a job. They're usual dual-sided as well. And obviously, if you haven't got the budget to buy the pre-made ones, think about making your own. The big 4 meter by 6 meter background we've got on my left here that we made up, yeah, this one I'm on about, basically cost less than one of the pre-made kind of backgrounds, all right? So if you've got the energy, if you've got somewhere to store it and so on, but the benefit of the pop-ups, of course, is that they can store quickly. Same thing again, Danny, that's lovely. And if I want to light the background more, let's move closer to the background, yeah? Molly, could you push the stool almost right back to, don't fall off the stool. There you go, brilliant. And again, bringing in my light. So remember, we're trying to maximize a small space. Nothing too exciting so far, but some really nice images. I mean, let's face it, if you can't take a good photograph of Molly, throw away the photograph. That's the bits there. So there's our kind of next image, and now we've just lit the background more and things. Obviously, the more shadow that I want, all I've got to do is either move the light by itself. So if I just move that light to begin with, same thing, Molly, that's beautiful, darling, there. And at the same point, if I want to create even more drama, it's lose anything that is reflective. That will add some pop. So if I just go to, if you look off towards the floor, and I just go to group 1, which is just the main light, you can see we've got a lovely kind of light kind of going on there, and it feels kind of quite real and everything else with it. So pop-up, and all we've done is put a little Tether Tools bracket on top of the frame, and we've done that to basically allow us to put the magnetic holder on the top there, kind of thing. Molly, can I get you to go just across there for a minute for me, if that's okay? Thank you, Princess. So let's get it. Ooh, he says, throwing away the stool. Let's kind of go into the high key element. So the first things first, let's just get rid of our fold away. Remember, if you're still struggling with any form of the foldaways that come with this kind of metal rim, try and create a bit of a Pringle shape first, and then do the Macarena, and then basically it will just shut itself, okay? So you should be able to kind of store these in a small space. Right, before we unveil the white wall, another part of what we created to maximize the space is we put 2 background supports attached to the wall, and we kind of made one, we put it onto a wheelie stand. So in fact, this can come off and store itself onto the wall if I don't want it visible, in the same way that brown one can come off the wall and basically attach onto the other clamp that is here, yes? So behind, as we talked down last week, there's a kind of a secret reveal wall or a product wall or whatever you want to call it here. Reveal wall is usually used when you're basically selling with prints in mounts, very old in their styling, but again, it's been in trend for the past 5 or 6 years again. But as far as the background here, we've got the classic brown. Tell you what, do you want to just throw your brown coat on a minute and we'll just do a quickie? I'll just switch this one on. Brandon is now going, oh, he's changing it again. Okay, sorry, Brandon. Let me just switch this one off. The reason I'm switching this one off is that when I go to group all, any light, except if it's in a different frequency, will fire as far as Elinchrom lights are concerned, yeah? So I needed just to say, in fact, either fire group 1, or in this case, group 3, or if I want them both to fire, it would be group all. Princess, do you want to come just stand on the checker floor for me? Right up towards this cloth background. Can you come over this way a touch more? We'll turn your body this way, in fact. There we go. We'll go a little bit more with a fashion flat light. So that means the body is turning in towards the actual light source, so it will flatten. Let's go just do it again. It's quick there. Pull up the collar, I think, fully, Mol. Turn the body around to me. Kind of pull it together, I think. Almost wrap yourself more as if it's a jewelry ad. That's the way. Let's do it. So let's check it's focused. Pretty good. So there's our kind of all the same kind of color palette together. And once more, if you want to create a little bit more drama and at the same time lighter background, kind of use a little bit of a direction to hit the subject, but paint it or point it, I should say, towards the actual background that you want lit. Otherwise, you feather it away. So there again, Molly. So deep shadow now. Now look into the floor, please, Molly. Okay, so if we just look at that for a second, you can see how we've lit the background more. Yep. So if she looks at me, it's too deep, it's too dark, the shadow. Where she looks away from the light towards the floor, whatever it be, then basically it's gone. And if we want to add that separation light on as well, we just switch it on in the group. Looking down towards the floor again, please, Molly. Lower the chin more, please, darling. That's a little bit, it's there. And relax. So that's going to give us that separation light. So that will really help us. So image left is basically just the one light. That's just the softbox. Image 2 is with the separation light switched on again. What we were going to do though was shoot high key, wasn't it? So let me just move this back over to here. Molly, if you come and lose the coat, please. Let me just move this background out of shot. And we'll just pull that curtain away. So even though we didn't shoot with the blue curtain here, we could have used this as a full length shot with us. Okay, so let's collapse this one down. So just moving it to the middle for a second. Move my light away, moving that to there. It's a great thing about these on frames. They pretty much can be moved and changed by one person. So if you're working in studio space, if you're getting as old as I am or as unfit as I am, and you basically want to try and do variety, then try and think how you're going to kind of move things easily and in a flow of a session. So let's set the high key up from scratch. So if you hadn't seen already, basically we've got the grids on the softbox here. That's going to control the light. So we'll leave them on for a minute to show you why we need to remove them, yeah? So I won't change the power on here for a second. Molly, I think I'll bring you back onto a stool just to keep you in a place so we can kind of control the demonstration for a minute, if that's okay. I've got to be honest that most of the time my clients are stood up. And the reason being is that gravity will kind of truncate the body. And I know this from first-hand experience, having a stomach. Every time I sit down, it tends to move up nearer my boobs. It'll happen to everybody in life if they eat too much. So we're back to the shot. The first thing let's do, though, is reset. So you can see I haven't had to re-meter at all. As long as I keep the distance from light to subject the same. Let's do group 1 first. This is just the key light. Turn the body this way a touch, please, Molly. Just a little bit, that's beautiful. And the head to me, that's beautiful. Right, so there's our first shot. And you can see, because the background hasn't got any light going on to it, it's basically mid-tone grey. If we put both lights on, turn the nose this way a little bit, that's beautiful, just there. We've got some illumination to the background, but you can see it's being controlled too much. So in other words, you've got this kind of almost halation in the middle, and you're going to have to fix that in the likes of Photoshop no matter what. So the first thing to do is don't forget to remove your grids. You'll probably increase the exposure without doing anything else. Just take exactly the same shot, just removing those grids. Straight away will increase the exposure. it's not going to be enough. It needs to be controlled, and I'll show you why now in a minute. Okay, so pretty much that's almost near as damn it as far as the kind of the lighting is concerned. We could pretty much get away with it. Let's meter at what light is actually coming onto the wall. In this stage, switching on the meter, selecting my group 3, which this light is, metering from the midpoint, and basically we got 5.6.5. Brandon, do you want to do a close-up of that so you can see what it is? All right, so this is actually white with detail. Okay, it has to be, if I'm shooting at f4, okay, I need a 2-stop difference in those two. So 5.65. What I want to do is increase that now by 0.5 of a stop. So the same thing. There we go. So I only just hit 0.5 of a stop, yeah, and I'm there. So now this is 2 stops difference to the key light. f4 my working aperture, f8 is my background. Now what I'm going to create is an image white with no detail. Let's do the same thing. It's beautiful. Relax. And so the difference now is the purity of the white. So obviously, if we could, let me just shift click all of those for a minute. So if we could, and if we had enough kit, I have, but I wanted to demonstrate with 2 lights today. Yeah, really. If I had enough kit, basically I would have a light from each side light in the background wall, so it's a lovely evenness. I can guarantee you, if we took a kind of a picker around here, there would be a slightly decrease in the amount of exposure compared to actually behind here and things really. But there we go. We've got a perfect image. Let me just though double check, because I reckon this light is slightly out of shot. There we go. Look, that's just it's just a little bit. It's 2/10. He's focused again. It's 2/10 out. That's all it is. Okay, so if I just increase it by 2/10, and to do that, from the plus button, I just press it twice. You can see 0.2 at the base. And now, even without taking a meter reading and taking the same shot, straight at me please, now I'm turning the head this way a little bit more, that's beautiful. Excellent. We've got now that perfect exposure onto the subject. So it's pointless kind of really guessworking, because then you're going to have to fix stuff in the likes of Photoshop. And what I'm trying to do is ensure for the client that I can maximize my time as a photographer to show them how good we are and how easy it is really. Somebody who makes things look very easy is either very good at their job, or basically they're making it up as they go along and they're a lucky idiot. I would like to say I'd be a lucky idiot in life, but what I'm trying to do is just use the equation of light. So remember, if I wanted f8 here on Molly as the working aperture, all I've got to then do is actually put more exposure onto the background to the 2 stops. So in other words, if I was working at f8 on her, I would need to increase the main light to f8, 2 stops more in power, and then I'd need to increase the backlight by 2 stops in power. Or I just do a quick cheat and I just move the ISO to 400, and then I move to f8. Let's do it again, please, Molly. It's beautiful. She is great to photograph, you know. And then from there, what I've created is a bigger depth of field, which is kind of perfect for a little bit more average style, whereas I tend to actually go for more of a creative depth of field. But I also know if the focus isn't absolutely bang on that eye, then it can actually not look quite as good and things really. So as far as your technique is concerned, keep it as simple as you can. You want to actually mimic it and repeat it every time you step into the studio as such. So what we've got here is we began with the darker background. We then went to the kind of pop-up background. We then shot onto the kind of the night scene, kind of made up the background ourselves. Then we moved across to actually show you the demonstration with the curtain backgrounds with it just on a wheel. Then we kind of took away the old master to reveal the white wall. And then finally, let's just bring in a bit of pop. So if I'm asked about what colours I like to actually have up in studio, there's definitely different colours. Depends on what a client wants. That's key, of course, understanding what their needs are. And by the way, if you're being asked for a very, very specific colour background, remember to charge the client for that paper if you don't have it, but make sure it's in the commercial quote before you do it. Having the backgrounds, I definitely want a grey because I can make it go black quickly. And then basically something like a red is a good dominant. Let me just do the quick shot on that. Turn the head this way a little bit. Let's bring this hand up to the earring. That's lovely. Eyes at me now, Molly. Turn the head looking down towards there again. It's beautiful. Great, darling. Well done. Let's just zoom out. He says, trying to zoom out. I've lost me mouse. There we go. So you using the red background, and you can see there though, because the light is coming in from a direction, we get a gradient. If we want a gradient from behind, then I'd recommend a floor stand. They're quite cheap. Let me just show you the one I use. This kind of thing that opens up. Yep. And they usually come with an extension pole. We put one of our little speed light kind of angle brackets on it the majority of the time, so we can make it easier. It doesn't matter if we've got a speed light on it or a studio flash on it. A speed light is basically static and needs a knuckle, whereas a studio flash has a kind of a built-in angle. But that's the kind of thing that we put on top as a rule with it. And that would go immediately behind Molly, in fact, with a light on the floor coming up into behind her. And remember, as a rule of thumb in classic photography, you would want the brightest point of the image behind the shoulder blades. You didn't want it behind the head because obviously that would create a halo. And that's us done. Thank you, Molly. Another amazing kind of expressions and a nice little shoot there. So we're live for questions. Mol, you feel free to come off set, please, darling. I'll do it, and let's see who this session is brought to you by. Yes, another Diet Coke episode. One of these days, they might even actually... No, they won't. Questions there, Brandon? Any?
Got a load of questions.
Load of questions! Excellent! As long as you want. I'm here forever.
I'm just going to shout them out if you repeat them.
You shout them out and I'll repeat them. Why? Because he still won't put a microphone on. It's only been like a year, I think it is. Anyway, go, Brand.
What is the name of the grey/black background you're using?
This is a well, it's technically a Manfrotto product now. It's an event background. If you go on to the Flash Centre, if you're based in the UK, you'll basically, if you put in either Last Light or Manfrotto event background, it will basically come up. You basically can buy the frame with different kind of finishes on them. They do them in the old master, kind of a sepia kind of look and feel as well, and some other stuff. So there's a big variety, a concrete, a green screen, a variety. But it's basically on 3 frames that come together as a kit, and that's that one. Next one. How do you know what background to choose? That's an easy thing to answer. It's all determined from the client. So we'll basically, if it's a business headshot session that we're doing, we'll know specifically what they're looking for. We'll either be told by a commercial advertising agency or designer what they need, or they'll send it through in the brief. If it's an actor, singer, and a dancer, like Molly is, basically we would actually discuss together what they like, what they need. If they've got an agent, their agent is probably putting in their 2 pennies worth anyway. Otherwise, it's a bit of common sense. What colours do you like? What colours do you hate? As a rule, I always want, she's come in perfectly today with a bare shoulders. We've got some gypsy tops, which basically give me a bare shoulder anyway. It's not so good on men, but we need it for men as well. But they tend to actually not worry about getting their top off. As far as the head and shoulders image, it's always good to have that plain and clean and everything else, because really what we're trying to do is show the honesty of the image. So discuss with the client or discuss the brief with the commercial client.
Next one.
Next question.
What are the lens sizes for a cropped sensor camera?
Oh, can't help you on that, sorry. I'm full frame sensor and I'm basically 85mm and a 50mm because some of the crop frame sensors are 1.3 or 1.5 or more or less. So basically I'm using 50mm for editorial, 85. That'll give you a good idea. So it might be the equivalent of like a 35mm and a 50mm. But get on to the likes of, you know, if you're Canon or Nikon or the Sony, whatever, they'll basically, if you do a quick search in Google, it'll tell you the equivalent.
Right. What would happen if you used the gold side on the triflecta?
Okay, good question. In fact, we were making a film beforehand about essentials of headshot photography, and I was saying that the gold is absolutely brilliant if you're photographing a very dark or black skin because it gives a lovely glow and a roundness and a warmth to the skin tone instead of a coolness. If you use that same gold on a kind of a pure white skin like Molly has, it tends to actually give a little bit of a jaundiced look, which doesn't really look good on anybody, does it, Moll? So I would just avoid from that and do the warmth in post-production. So gold, good for black skin specifically, I love it, or for something very, very stylized. Otherwise, I would go for a sunsoft, so in other words, it's gold and a silver white thread, or a soft silver, which is a white and silver thread.
What I think is the last question then. Do you always shoot with the camera angled down on the model?
Okay, what he thinks is the last question, he says. Remember, this is Brandon not bothering to wear a microphone, yeah? Do I always shoot down onto the model? When I'm photographing the likes of the head and shoulders like we're doing here, the answer is yes. If I'm photographing editorial, it's probably more the reverse where I'm shooting lower and up. You've seen that lots over for the past live sessions that we've been doing. So as a rule, when I'm photographing basically the head shot, so above the nipple, basically I'm always slightly above where possible going downwards. We don't really want to look up the nose.
There we go. Another one's literally just come through.
Another question's just come through now, so there we go. That's the whole point of being live. Go on, bud.
What's the software you use on the laptop to preview the tethered images?
Okay, so we're coming out of the camera with a Tether Tools cable, and we are going into Capture One. You can go into pretty much anything, including Canon's own software, I'm sure. You could go into the likes of Lightroom, it's just a little bit slower. But Capture One, when it works brilliantly, it's amazing and it's very, very fast as well and things. So we're shooting into Capture One today.
Okay, that's it.
Brilliant, that's it. Thanks for joining us live. Thanks for Molly, amazing as always. I hope you're enjoying the changing room kind of thing. Next week, what are we doing? We're doing dog. Yeah, it's not my thing, all right? But I'm going to set up a three-sided studio for you as if I was a dog photographer, and you'll probably see some chaos. So thanks for joining us live. Remember, the Photographer Academy is an online training resource for photographers. We've got some exciting things going on for 22, so watch this space. Head over to thephotographeracademy.com if you want some more information, and it'd be great to see you. Otherwise, we're back next Thursday live at 5 o'clock UK time, and we're going to be setting up the studio, as I said, for dog. Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye. See you all soon. Bye-bye.